So I'd like to ask James to come up and be the first to share a testimony with us. James?
How you doing? Good evening. Hello. My name is James, and I'm a believer who struggles with addiction. I was born and raised in southern New Jersey, about 20 minutes from Philadelphia and 45 minutes from Atlantic City. Growing up, I was raised in a loving and caring family. My parents divorced when I was a baby, and both remarried before I turned 4 years old. So luckily for me, I had a big family and extra parents that loved me like their own. As far back as I can remember, my family always got together for barbecues, sporting events, birthdays, and holidays were always a big deal. From my grandparents to my cousins, we always were together having fun. I was the oldest child in my family, but I had older cousins that were more like brothers to me. Being the youngest of the cousins, I grew up idolizing everything my cousins did and wanted to be just like them. I saw them playing sports, so I played sports. When they got older, I saw them in high school dating, going to proms, and partying with friends. By seeing all this, I tried to mimic what they did, but the only difference was I was 7 years younger than my cousins. So at age 13, I began to smoke marijuana every day and drink when I knew I could get away with it. In high school, pills became an epidemic in my area. I always swore I would just stick to marijuana and alcohol because by this time, I had seen one of my cousins become an addict and didn't want to follow in his footsteps. Unfortunately, at age 18, while working at my after-school job, I ran out of marijuana and was offered a Percocet because my coworker and I couldn't find any marijuana. Once I took that pill and it kicked in, I can remember saying to myself, wow, I love this feeling, and I want to feel like this for the rest of my life. This began my 11-year-long addiction to opiates. I've always been a fun-loving kid, but opiates took me out of my shell, and I felt like I could do anything. I thought I found the answer to life. It all started with marijuana, and then pills, and then unfortunately, it led to heroin. Where I was raised, you could find drugs on any street corner 15 minutes away from your house. So heroin became my drug of choice simply on how inexpensive and how readily available it was. By partaking in shady acts like stealing, lying, and cheating to feed my addiction, this kind-hearted mama's boy simply turned into a self-centered, arrogant, loudmouth fool who nobody wanted to be around. Living in dope houses, I didn't have a care if I died or if I lived. Some days just wishing God would just let me overdose and be done with all the madness. On June 17th, 2009, my daughter Devin was born. Finally, I woke up a little bit. Devin gave me a purpose to live again. I thought now this was going to be my answer to straighten out my life and settle down and be a father I was raised to be. What I did not know at the time was that addiction is a disease and you can't simply stop using drugs without some type of recovery. By this time, I've been in multiple programs, but when I got out of them, I never worked on my recovery. For a couple of years, I went through ups and downs and had relapses, but tried to take care of my daughter. Devin was around 3 years old when I received full custody of her. Her mother could not take care of her, and I stepped in to raise her. I had a fiance and we lived together, but most people did not know that I was secretly getting high, trying to make it appear that I had it all together. This went on until Devin turned 5 years old, when using spiraled out of control and I split up with my fiance and had to sign custody over my daughter to my mother. This is where I hit rock bottom. I went on a major run and major depression, guilt, and shame came back into my life. These emotions overwhelmed me every day, which then made me use more and more. My mother's aunt had lived in Naples for some time now, and by living down here, she had heard about Justin's place. She told my grandmother about this program, and my grandma gave me the phone number. After a week's decision to come into the program, I finally agreed to get help. The only difference was this time I sought out help because I could not keep living in despair. The one thing that stuck out to me why I wanted to enter the program was when Joel Berneman stated to me on the phone, we wanted to get to the underlying issue of why you get high. This was a question that I would ask myself all the time. Upon entering Justin's place, I was nervous, anxious, taking a year out of my life to come to Naples, Florida, especially being away from my baby girl, Devin. I'll never forget walking in the door and everyone in the house was welcoming and it seemed like they were happy to see me. It was not a look I was used to getting. Most people at the time wanted nothing to do with me. During my time in the program, I would encounter what John James would call floaters and modules ahead of me. Floaters are what you say people who float through the room who had a sense of peace and serenity about them. Naturally, I would observe these men because I was striving to have this in my life. During my program to learn about Paul's and how my brain worked as an addict, which started to make a lot of sense why I would always resort back to getting high, even though I did not want to get high. So in the program, I went through a lot of ups and downs, depressions, and most men would agree, a lot of angry outbursts. If it wasn't for God bringing me together with the men I went through the program with, I don't know if I would have stuck it out. The men I went through the program with were side by side with me, picked me up when I was down and out. They watched me cry in the rooms up in LaBelle over missing my daughter, being a failure in life, and they laughed with me. I met their families on passes, and most important, they would call me out on my negative attitude. This program lets me utilize all the tools they set in place, like devotions, Bible studies, AA meetings, trauma classes, and most importantly, church. The program gave me a safe environment so I could let the wheels fall off, you could say. I came in prideful, arrogant, very sarcastic, negative, and honestly no desire to build a relationship with God. All these defects were brought to my attention, and not one time did anyone in the program give up on me. I had guys working with me, push through the hard times, and encourage me every step of the way. I've honestly never seen anything like Justin's Place. It blows my mind that there could be so much love with men with the same backgrounds as myself. During my transition interview, a staff member told me he had one thing to say to me. He said that he hopes I can find the joy in recovery, because there was joy in recovery and I didn't have it. After being in an AA meeting and hearing that there is only one line of defense against addiction, which is spirituality, this struck me hard, and by being in Justin's Place, I realized then I could not do this on my own. I surrendered my will to God shortly after and became a Christian. Justin's Place let me be an intern first out at Wolf Apartments for Phase 2. There I encountered great mentorship through Jay Goodman and Michael Marciano. These guys had walked the same walk as myself and saw something in me that I could not see. They encouraged me on a daily basis and pushed me in ways that others did not know how to. I recently transferred over as an intern for motivational track at Justin's Place. This is where all my spiritual blessings have occurred. I'm surrounded 24 hours a day with Step 1 and the broken men that enter the program. The men in motivational track have helped me grow in the last 3 months more than my whole stay in Justin's Place. Here at Motivational Track, I have more mentors by Joel Brenneman, Joe Kay, and Ben Tong. These men have been there for me every step of the way, helping me be a better mentor to the clients, but also in my own personal life. They encourage, teach, and listen when I just need to vent. I will always be truly grateful to Justin's Place and St. Matthew's House for taking me in when nobody else wanted me. They have displayed love when no one else could. They have become family for me when my family had to back away and let me figure out life. To all the donors that made our stay at Justin's Place possible, I say thank you. I am by no means cured or fixed, but today I'm over 14 months sober, and my mind has been completely transformed into what God has intended me to be. My mother has her son back, my grandmother has her grandson back, and most importantly, my daughter Devin has her father back. And next spring, when school lets out, she will be joining me at the Wolf Apartments in the new community track out there. For all the men and women that are sitting here tonight, I'm here as a sign of hope that it's possible to change your life. It's possible not to obsess over drugs and alcohol, and it's possible to accomplish the dreams that you have had before you started using. I never thought I could string together 5 days off drugs, let alone 14 months, and it keeps getting better. As we all know, through God, all things are possible. You just have to have a willingness and desire for change. If this fool from New Jersey can do it, so can you. Just ask God for guidance and your peers for help. We cannot do this alone. Thank you.